Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. I'm Cade Kennedy alongside Connor Gray and Andrew Santangelo, and folks, we have a lot to break down. Game 4 and 5 of the NBA Finals. Stanley Cup is officially underway tomorrow night with Colorado and Tampa Bay. We'll get into how the Bolts took that series over the Rangers. And the College World Series is finally upon us as 8 teams converge in Omaha, plus some random other news that's happened earlier today. So as always, starting the show, guys, how are you doing this evening?
You go ahead.
I'm doing very well, thank you. Again, I mentioned last time I went out to Busch Stadium.
You did.
So I got back Sunday after seeing 2 games in St. Louis, saw a game in Kansas City. So that was a lot of fun and enjoyed both those stadiums. Busch is probably definitely – I always throw my teams out of it. That way there's no bias. So I'm going to say Busch is my favorite stadium so far I've been to. Again, throwing the Phillies out of the other 9 I've been to, I got to throw Busch at number 1 now.
All right, well, that's good to hear.
Not really much of anything going on. Doing fine.
All righty, well, there we go. I'm happy to see that you enjoyed your Busch Stadium trip, one of the best stadiums in baseball, I would say. If I was being not biased, I've only been to 2 stadiums, and one of them doesn't exist anymore. So I guess Kauffman wins by default because the ballpark in Arlington does not exist anymore. It's now whatever the new stadium they have for it.
Life Field, maybe?
Globe Life?
Yeah, it's Globe Life.
But we do have some news that happened earlier today. Sports Illustrated article coming out from the Jazz perspective, one of the Jazz beat writers. Oddsmakers saying Rudy Gobert to Toronto is the most likely thing we'll see happen this offseason with him. Betting-wise, Toronto is the favorite. Utah's actually an underdog at minus 130. I cannot believe we're at a time where people gamble on where people are going in the offseason, but you know what? That's just where we are. That is where we are in 2022.
At this point, honestly, it doesn't surprise me. Anything you look at, especially when you get to like the Super Bowl or something, anything you want to throw money on, it's out there.
Yeah.
So at this point, it really doesn't surprise me. But in terms of Rudy Gobert, we were kind of talking about for a quick second before the show, but I'm not a huge Rudy guy, if I'm being honest, and this would be an interesting trade. I mean, if I'm Toronto, I'd rather keep OG. I don't know how to say his last name. I don't know if you know how to say it, Hanabi. But I'd rather keep him than Rudy Gobert, to be honest. Some of the other teams you mentioned, it would create an interesting destination. I really don't think him and Davis would work out too well. I mean, honestly, I think the best fit here would be Brooklyn just because they don't have a center. That would be the scariest spot for him in terms of how he'd compete with other teams in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to see, personally, some of these kind of don't make any sense. Like Charlotte, they're just kind of there. I mean, I guess they have the money to do it if they want to. You know, maybe trade Gordon Hayward back to Utah. Who knows? You do have that contract lying around. New York, the Knicks, I really don't know how that would help the Knicks in any – I don't know if anything can help the Knicks at this point with their situation they have there. The Mavericks, of course, are, you know, one day they will get a center. I don't know when that day is going to be. I was looking through I saw a post where – someone was looking through old Dallas articles from like 1985, and even back then they were still trying to find a good center. It's just a problem the Mavericks have always had. The Atlanta Hawks, I did see earlier today, they are open to trading John Collins possibly to make this Gobert trade happen. They're open to doing something there if they want to. So, interesting to see what will happen here. Go ahead.
I would say it just, for me, also depends on the package. Like, you go to the Mavericks, I get they need a center, but, like, who are you throwing in there? Like, that's my worry with Dallas if they were to do that. Like, obviously, you're probably giving up your first-round pick, but you're going to throw a Jalen Brunson in there? Like, for me personally, I'd rather that guard piece that so many teams search for in a starting lineup and a good six-man, especially a guy like Jalen who, yeah, he has his games to be a starter, but really I think he makes his noise like that first piece off the bench and then a fill-in role for a starter. And same thing with a guy like Dinwiddie. Like, I think they're kind of the same guys, but I don't know if I'm willing to give up, especially you saw what Dallas did without Rudy. So I'd try to go get an Andre Drummond in free agency. Like, why give up those pieces when you can find a guy? I mean, listen, I like Andre Drummond, but he's going to be probably cheaper than Rudy Gobert. Like, find me someone who doesn't think that's the case. So, I mean, go find me a guy like Andre Drummond rather than giving up pieces like Jalen Brunson or Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah. I mean, that could be something you could do. For Dallas, from everything I've heard, they're probably going to go cheap, which is what I expect them to do. You don't have any cap space. I mean, maybe Tim Hardaway Jr. gets traded. Maybe you try to find a deal for somebody else. But other than that, I really don't know what the Mavs are going to do. Brooklyn, like you said, I think would be interesting. And how about these other two on here, the Warriors and the Lakers? The Warriors, I feel like, are just involved in every trade idea for a superstar just because of how good they are. And I feel like the Lakers are the same way, where it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is. They're going to throw LA in there, or they're going to throw the Knicks in there. I'm surprised Miami isn't on here for this one. They're usually the big three of, if a superstar is getting traded, they're going one of those three places. Or at least it feels like it.
Yeah, well, the thing with the Warriors, they'll be linked to every center that's possibly on the market, trade value or free agent, because they're kind of like the Mavericks. I mean, when's the last time they had a solid center?
I mean, they do have Western Conference Final, probably second place MVP in my opinion, Kevon Looney. They do have him.
I think Andrew Wiggins takes that time.
Yeah, he's their best center now. I didn't expect to say that. We'll talk about that later on.
But, no, I think that's the problem with the Warriors and why they're going to be in here is because until they find a center, they thought they had one with, who was the, Wiseman, I think, was the draft pick. And, I mean, he gets injured. He hasn't been able to prove himself yet, and obviously still has time. But I think the draft was 2 years ago. And so that's going to be the interesting case is where are the Warriors at? And Knicks, they got to be thrown to some key guy every offseason. So, again, if he goes to the Lakers, that'd be interesting. You probably trade Westbrook to match some salary there, but I don't know how. I mean, think of big three of LeBron, Davis, and Rudy Gobert. Like, I don't know how in the world is that going to work.
Yeah, when's the last time we had a power forward, center, and small forward combo big three? Like, I don't know if that's ever happened before.
No, that's
I'm sure that has, but I don't feel like I've ever heard of anything like that happening, where your three stars are those three positions. Small forward, power forward, yes. Center,
The only thing that I would give him is, I don't know, I haven't really paid a whole lot yet, obviously with the season not being over in free agency, is you hope you can get some veteran point guard on the vet minimum deal or something where you can fix your team that way.
Maybe Rondo comes back a second time. I don't know. I don't know what they want to do there, but we'll see, obviously, as the offseason is nearly here. The only sport I think where the offseason can be just as fun as the regular season, I think, has got to be the NBA. There's so many weird things that happen.
There's a new rumor every day, it feels like.
That is true. The offseason never sleeps, even during the finals. But a little bit of lighthearted, funny, but sad news at the same time. The national anthem singer for the College World Series cannot play because he had a picture of himself doing horns down at the Women's College World Series after doing the national anthem at that OU Texas game. He took a picture of himself doing horns. Oh, he's a Texas A&M guy who lived in Dallas-Fort Worth. And College World Series sent him, or the NCAA sent him an email saying, hey, there's a picture of you at the Women's College World Series doing horns down in front of the Texas dugout. That's an offensive gesture, and we can't have you doing that here in Omaha for the World Series.
That is stupid.
So, sorry, you cannot sing the national anthem for the World Series, even though you've done it at several A&M sporting events, Houston Astros events, Texas Rangers games. Sorry, no Omaha for you. You can't do horns down. Horns down is still illegal.
That's really fun. I didn't even hear about that. I mean, obviously you had, I think, was the Big 12 or college football in general?
It was the Big 12.
Down penalty stuff, so maybe it's following suit and a little bit of that. But no, I didn't even hear. That's a really funny story, and that's surprising because, I mean, I get it's a picture, so, I mean, either don't have him do the Texas game, maybe, or just tell him not to do anything. Like, it's not like it was like the day of. Like, you still have time to contact the guy and, like, just please don't do anything stupid or something like that.
Yeah.
I'll just tell them just don't do it. Do it again.
Yeah.
That's all you have to say. Instead, they're like, no, you can't do the national anthem now.
Yeah,
like,
I don't understand.
They're being stupid.
And in reality, too, it's not like it'd be different. Like if it's like a picture of him like with the middle finger or something. It's not like it's not like it's actually a very offensive gesture.
Apparently, the middle finger is less offensive than horns down.
Right?
You gotta understand, horns. This is a crime against humanity. We do not do horns down on this channel. This is a very no. I'm just joking. We do horns down all the time. So I don't understand why this keeps happening. It just is. It's this weird avalanche almost where it started as a joke of like, yeah, you know, OU does horns down, and then it slowly gained more prominence in the Big 12 over time. And then Will Greer did it against Texas and Austin. I think that set the entire, okay, he did it, so everyone's now allowed to do it. And so then wherever Texas went, horns down, like, continued to follow him. And I think it really was Tom Herman who set it off when he said something about like you're defacing a symbol of our university or whatever.
Dude,
and it was just like, okay, in the words of Tom Herman himself, okay, cool, whatever. Just whatever you want to do about it. But I don't understand why this is apparently a serious issue that the NCAA has to ban people from singing national anthems. It's a symbol. It's just a logo flipped upside down with a hand. Like, this is the most non-offensive thing in the world, but horns down, still very bad.
One of the funniest ones I can't remember. It might have been Texas State, but it was the baseball closer this year. Got that huge save and did it. That one was funny. I was laughing at that one. I was not expecting him to do that.
Yeah.
But I think it was Texas State.
Yeah, I think it was. I know OU's closer did it when they beat him in the Big 12 championship this year, but horns down continues to happen, and it'll never not happen. Horns down will always be there.
Well, why we're on the topic, and maybe I'll wait till later, maybe on a different point, but I got another funny story to tell you. I don't know if this is the only funny one you have, sports related.
This is the main funny one for the day.
I got one later. I don't know if you want it later or now.
I mean, what is it about? Let's just...
It's something with the Warriors before last night's game.
Oh, well, that's our next subject is the Warriors. I mean, if you want to talk, we're about to talk about Game 4 here.
That was a good segue.
Yeah, that's actually better than half of my terrible joke segue. So,
well, it's before Game 5, so we can talk about Game 4 first.
So we'll talk about Game 4. Do your joke. That can be the segue into Game 5. But Steph Curry just exploding in the TD Garden, just 43 points. What do you want? What else do you want to say about that? Carrying the Warriors to victory, a 107-97 win. Celtics played really good. They played how you would expect them to play at home. They played good defensively. The only problem they still have is just, man, they had to fix rebounds, and they couldn't do it. Getting out rebounded 55-42. Other than that, I mean, you shot better from 3. You had the same amount of turnovers. You shot a little bit worse from 2. Tatum, 23 points, but 8 for 23 shooting. Jason Tatum kind of becoming that missing piece there where you need him to elevate his game a bit. Yeah, he scored 23, but when you're only shooting about 34, 35% from the field, that's not efficient enough to win an NBA title. You've got to have Jaylen Brown show up. You got to have everybody show up. It can't just be one guy trying to will your team, unless you're Steph Curry, of course, where you can just go off.
Well, it pretty much amounted to you had some players for Warriors that gave enough points. Clay didn't really show up like you want him to. Obviously, Draymond's going to Draymond, but Curry
Draymond got his clutch 2 points.
It's like Curry going 43 is what really helped them out a lot because Curry had to be that guy to score whenever possible, and Tatum not shooting before this series how he's supposed to shoot.
Yeah,
because he was averaging between like 28 and 32 points.
Yeah,
and that's where you need him at, but he hasn't done it all series, and the other guys just were not. It just wasn't enough because they weren't really shooting as well.
The other thing I do want to say about Jason Tatum, when you have a 1-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, that is not a good sign in a finals game. 6 assists, 6 turnovers. Also, I mean, Al Horford with 8, Robert Williams with 7. Marcus Smart did have 18, but you go 3 for 9 from 3, you kind of start shooting yourself, and this is something that we talked about, I know, before Game 4, but Jaylen Brown with 21, he tried his hardest. Derek White had 16 off the bench. But you look at the Warriors, Klay Thompson with 18, Andrew Wiggins with 17 points, 16 rebounds. Kind of the unsung hero of the Warriors right now. I know we made the joke earlier, the Warriors' greatest center is Andrew Wiggins. When he does that, I mean, he's got an argument for it.
Yeah.
They wanted to play a bit smaller. I know Otto Porter Jr. getting the start. That was kind of the Warriors' adjustment. It didn't look like it would work that well as we hear random people yelling outside. They've got some sort of event going on tonight. I saw people walking around with backpacks earlier and was a little confused, not going to lie. But this was a fun game. I'm glad we finally got a competitive game. Golden State pulled away in the fourth quarter. It was tight going into that fourth quarter. This is what finals games are supposed to be.
Yep. That's how a lot of these games should be competitive and close. For the most part, they shouldn't be blowouts.
Yeah, but this put that series at 2-2 at that point. Andrew, do you have any more thoughts about this?
I was going to say, this was the real, I mean, I know he's been playing well, but this was the real, like, kick into another gear game for Wiggins. And that's what the Warriors needed. Obviously, Curry's been doing his thing all series, but no one's really been that second, third piece consistently. Nope. And that was big for Wiggins. I know Klay Thompson dropped 18, but you mentioned Marcus Smart going 3 for 9. I mean, Thompson in the end was 4 of 10. So I mean, that's not. I mean, 40% obviously. That's a lot of 3-pointers in a game like that.
That is true.
And that's where Andrew Wiggins, he comes in. He's more efficient. He's got the 17 points. You mentioned the 16 rebounds, and he really kicked it into another gear. And I think he was a big part of that win, more than anybody else outside of Curry, obviously hitting 43. But how about? I mean, and we'll get into it again because it was the same type of game last night. But what kind of amazes me is with how good these offenses can be. These defenses aren't letting up. And we talked about how good both teams were defensively as well. But at some point, you thought maybe the offense was going to give either way. But these have all been really kind of more defensive battles, which has been kind of crazy. I mean, I'm waiting for one kind of just big explosion game where it's like 120 to 115 or something.
Yeah, I mean, I keep waiting for the inevitable, 130, 125 track meet to happen where someone goes off that shouldn't. But it hasn't happened yet. It really hasn't. And then going into Game 5, apparently something happened. So, Andrew, if you could please enlighten us of what funny thing you saw.
So, I don't know who else saw this, and you guys might have even seen it, but this, I'm not a big YouTube watcher, but it's some YouTuber. I think his name is like Dolls TV or something like that.
Yeah.
And I haven't really seen a good picture of him, but apparently he kind of looks like Klay Thompson a little bit.
Oh, the fake
And
Klay. Okay,
he
this
dressed up-
guy.
Yeah, he got away with it. Got through 5 different types of security. Got onto the court and was like, I guess there's some part of the shoot around or whatever, but he was on the court like shooting for like 10 minutes before he got caught.
Yeah, that's great.
And he got banned from life, obviously, from the stadium. But I don't know. I didn't know if you guys saw it, but I just thought it was the funniest
If I'm
thing.
Klay Thompson, if you win, you give him an honorary ring, just because that takes dedication.
But apparently it's the second time he did it. I didn't know he did it before, but apparently he did it with like the parking lot before. I think it was like 2 years ago, and he got away with it. Got through into the parking lot, and he stopped there. That way nothing really happened. Well, last night he took it to another level.
Yeah.
Got through. He had a ticket to the game too, which I was reading, which was kind of funny. But it was kind of funny. If you don't know the whole story, you should look into it. But it was pretty funny. Just come across my Twitter feed today.
Yeah, I did see that trend because I saw like fake Klay. I was like, what? How did that even happen? Are there 2 Klay Thompsons now? That I saw what happened. I was like, oh. That's got to be really embarrassing if you're security there. Like, how do you feel knowing that you let some guy who isn't Klay Thompson just fool you like that?
Yeah, and I'm going off what I read, but according to him, the guy that did it, I think his only punishment was he's banned from the stadium. So I don't think anything happened legally, but he said that he went through 5 different parts of security. Not one of them, and I get you're used to them showing up every day, but you still got to check it. He said not one of them asked for his ID.
You'd think there'd be like a height difference, unless this guy's like 6'6" or something.
He is, because I haven't went and watched his whole YouTube. I went and watched a video where you can see a full shot of him. He's kind of a big guy. I don't know if he's as big as Klay.
Yeah.
But it was kind of funny to see that happen.
That is pretty funny. But Celtics definitely could have used fake Klay showing up instead in Game 5. I'll say that for sure. Looking directly into the box score. Tatum had 27. He was a lot more efficient in Game 5. 10 for 20, a lot better there. But that secondary cast, this is one of those weird ones where they showed up, but they didn't because of this big number right here. When you have 18 turnovers like that, that's a big, not good number right there to have for the Celtics.
And also they had a lot of issues with offense getting fouls.
Yeah, that's another.
There were a lot of things that were happening from the way everyone was talking, I didn't see it clearly because I kind of had it as more background noise.
Yeah.
But apparently, Warriors were doing a lot of grabbing. Like, they were hooking on to guys and basically doing. When Boston tried to let go, they got fouls called on them. So it was like, oh, alrighty then.
Yeah.
That's just what people were saying. Wasn't really keeping my eye on the whole game.
Yeah.
The reffing was brutal. I will say that. But at one point was I like, oh, the Warriors have a clear advantage. I thought it was brutal.
Because the play I'm thinking of too to go the other way was the one where Robert Williams clearly grabs Curry and doesn't intentionally throw him to the ground, but kind of drops
there was
him.
also one where Smart was setting up a screen. He hooked onto Curry.
Yeah,
so that's where
I think it's one of those that's physical basketball. It's the finals. Let him play a bit,
Yeah.
even though you would call that a foul any other time. There's this weird mentality where it's the playoffs, so let him play. So, a.k.a. let it be, it might as well be a Syracuse-Georgetown 1980s game out there in terms of feeling it.
No, the difference is
I threw that reference in there for you, Andrew.
The difference is you can't throw a punch and get away with it.
Also, Patrick Ewing isn't out there. That's another big difference. But
I will say the one big thing I was disappointed for the Celtics standpoint in terms of the reffing. I don't know if you watched the whole game. Cade,
I watched most of it. I actually had a night where I didn't have anything going up against it. So,
but I was disappointed with the 2 technicals that they gave the Boston. I thought those were very quick and unwarranted. And obviously, I don't have an earpiece, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they clearly crossed the line.
yeah,
Of what
the
was
one on
said.
Udoka, I had no idea what it was like. He said like 3 words.
Yeah.
It felt like it got teed up immediately.
Exactly.
It was like,
I think it was off an out of bounds call, maybe.
Yeah, it was
And
something
it was going
like
to
that.
break, and Udoka said something. He must have really said.
He must have said
he
a magic
the word. Or
word.
something. Yeah, he
yeah.
said the magic word because that was one of the quickest, especially in a finals game. Was probably the quickest trigger I've ever had. And
Yeah.
obviously, Marcus Smart loves to run the refs to the last second, so
Yeah.
I'm sure he was chirping all game. But even his was kind of a quick thing off a weird play where he got knocked to the ground, but they called a foul away from the ball, still on the Warriors. But I don't think he recognized that the Celtics got a call already, so he got up, said something, and that was the end of it for him. And I mean, how about I will say that offensive foul call on him right after the technical to me was definitely like, okay, yeah, stop talking to us.
Yeah.
This call's against you.
Yeah. But the one thing that I always find interesting in these games is you got to look at how players play throughout it. We got to talk about Andrew Wiggins again because 26 points, 13 rebounds. First time ever in his career he's had back-to-back double-doubles. Has never happened before in his career.
He led all scorers in this.
Yeah, he
led
led all scorers
in this game for the Warriors.
Yeah.
And
1 point off of all scorers in general.
And again, this is where he's got to continue to come up big. And listen,
And he did it on 0 for 6 from 3 as well.
I mean, Curry went 0 for 9. Not a good shooting night for either team.
No.
Well, here's the thing, and I know a lot of people are going to call me crazy here,
Mm-hmm.
but say Warriors, and I'm jumping the gun here, we're going to finish this one, but say the Warriors go out and win Game 6, right?
Yeah.
And say Andrew Wiggins leads scorers again. Does he not have a legitimate case to take away that Finals MVP of Curry? Because I will argue that what Andrew Wiggins is doing right now is better than what Andre Iguodala did in that Finals.
Yes, I was say if we're doing the player-based mentality thing, you got Wiggins out there who has played like 4 different positions out there.
Mm-hmm.
They've put him at shooting guard through center whenever they need him. He's been versatile. He's been a pretty decent defender for the most part. Whoever they put him on, he does his job. Amazing hustle every single play, great rebounding, literally doing it all. Yes, Curry had the 43-point game, and people are going to look at that, and it is impressive. It is genuinely impressive. But, yeah, I mean, if Iguodala got a Finals MVP, give Andrew Wiggins a Finals MVP just to see. I just want to see that reaction, first of all, and also the running joke of Steph Curry never being allowed to have a Finals MVP.
Yeah.
If we're gonna deny him again, give it to Wiggins then.
No, and again, I think he has.
He does have a legitimate
If he goes
case.
out and plays the same way, obviously, if he goes out and drops an 8-point game,
Yeah,
okay,
if
then
he
you
returns
take it away.
back,
But-
yeah.
And I can't remember what either one of them did in Game 1 or Game 2 or something like that. But
Well-
no, if Wiggins goes out and drops another 20 to 25-point game, I think he has a case. But I mean, going back to last night, one big thing I thought was a key difference for the Celtics, and this goes back to what I was talking about the refs and stuff. The Celtics shot 16 more foul shots than the Warriors.
Yeah.
So for all those Celtics fans that are complaining, oh, the Warriors got all the calls, you guys shot 16 more foul shots. The difference is the Warriors only missed 2. You guys missed 10.
The Celtics missed 10. Jason Tatum going 2 for 6 at the line, especially.
I think he missed both. I mean, obviously he missed 4. No, it is not. Well, I think he missed both twice in that game.
Yeah, I think he did.
I mean, that's 2 empty possessions there that swung the game different directions. And but again, the defense is continuing to impress
Yeah,
me here.
and then Jaylen Brown. I mean, you go 0 for 5 from 3. You got 18 points, and 8 of them are for the free throw line. He was good at getting to the free throw line, but man, that 5 for 18 shooting is brutal. The Celtics and Warriors have both done a lot to shoot themselves out of games in the finals this year, which I didn't think I'd say. But even on a day where your starting lineup, 4 of your 5 guys go 0 for from 3. Klay Thompson shows up with 5 for 11, drops 21. Maybe they should have kept fake Klay out there as a decoy with real Klay shooting so well.
And this was the game. This is the game too that I know on Thursday we were talking about who needs to step up. Jordan Poole stepped up in this game. I remember us
He
talking
did.
about him. This was his kind of game. He went 50% from 3.
Gary Payton also,
Yep.
little Gary Payton stepping up with 15.
So I mean, the Warriors got the help they needed. Now the question is, can the Celtics respond?
Yeah, that will be the question. That game will be on, I believe, Thursday night. So we won't get into it a whole lot tonight, but Celtics are a 4-point favorite going back to the Garden. We will see what happens there. But moving on to Game 5, Tampa Bay, New York. Got to recap this a little bit. The road to the Stanley Cup Finals. And Tampa Bay getting that impressive 3-1 win up at Madison Square Garden. The 8-game win streak for the Rangers was ended. They had a chance to tie the all-time record, could not do it. So Tampa Bay was 1 win away. And I mean, the Lightning did everything you wanted to do. Yeah, they could have had a little bit more in hits, but they were pretty even there. They had 2 more shots. They won 6 more faceoffs. They had 4 fewer penalty minutes. And I mean, when your other guys are stepping up, not just Kucherov or Sergachev or, Stamkos, when you got Palat and Hagel scoring and everything's going well for you, chances are the Bolts are going to play pretty well.
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, this was a game Rangers could not have afforded to lose.
Yeah.
Because if they would have won this one, they at least had a shot to get back in Game 7 because there was no way they were going to win Game 6 in Tampa, which, spoiler alert for whatever. But,
Yeah, spoiler alert for 5 minutes from now.
Yeah. But Tampa obviously played really well. Rangers were, after getting that first goal, it seemed like they were kind of more defensive. Then they tried to be aggressive, but they overdid it, and Tampa took advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where Tampa's depth and experience really paid dividends for them in their favor. You mentioned the Rangers jumping out to the 1-0 lead, and I think that's where a big part of this was. I mean, you see a lot of teams, big Game 5, you might start to panic a little bit, but Tampa Bay's like, we've been here before. We'll be just fine, and then they had the side pieces really step up, help them out, came back and took this one.
Yep, and then speaking of that Game 6, I know we just mentioned it a little bit. Tampa Bay getting that 2-1 win, another Eastern Conference championship. Stamkos getting 2 goals for the Lightning, and this was another weird one. New York, once again, was more physical, hit them. Only 10 combined penalty minutes this entire game. A pretty clean game. Rangers won 8 more faceoffs, but when Tampa gets 31 shots up to New York's 21, you're usually going to get 1 or 2 more to go. Steven Stamkos, as I mentioned, with the 2 goals there. And the Rangers, this was another one where they have an opportunity. You have a tie game for all of 20 seconds in the third period. You had that moment. You just got a power play goal. You had all the momentum going your way. You're getting ready for the final near 5 minutes. Just, okay, build up. Don't let Tampa Bay get anything crazy. And you let them score. Defense immediately collapses, and Tampa Bay able to take that lead. And once that goal happened, you knew it was okay. That's all she wrote there.
Yep. It was just that goal after giving up 1 on a power play, Tampa was just like, we can just easily just score on you without any issues.
Yeah.
After you think you have the momentum, psych, it's still ours. We've been here before. We're going to win and go on to the finals.
Yeah. And, I mean, Shesterkin played a great game for the Rangers. He did everything he could, 29 saves. Vasilevsky doing another great job. So it will bring us to Game 1 tomorrow night, Tampa Bay at Colorado. The matchup kind of everyone wanted to see, yes. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
The defending champs versus probably the best team in hockey right now, or at least one of the hottest teams in the NHL. We're going to get a battle, folks. Colorado is favored here in Game 1, 7 o'clock tomorrow night on ABC and ESPN+. So if you don't have ABC or just don't have TV, you can still watch it if you just want to pay the nice little $5, $6 a month.
Well worth it.
It is worth it.
It is worth it.
But what would you say are some of the keys here? Obviously, we've seen Colorado a lot. We've seen Tampa Bay a lot. So my question for you two is, what does Tampa have to do to slow Colorado down? We've seen teams try to do it. We've seen teams try to get into a foot race with them. We've seen teams try to be a little bit more physical. What does Tampa Bay have to do to slow Colorado down and win this series?
It's kind of like a mixture of all those, because Tampa can fly up and down the ice. Probably not as fast as Colorado, but they can keep up with them for most of the game. Then you also need to be a bit physical, kind of try to hopefully get them out of their element. It's always just like a mixture of different things, and also just playing solid defense, which Tampa is very good at. I mean, they have a great goalie. Their defensemen are really well put together, and I think they can also score just as well as Colorado can. whenever they can actually put it up to another gear. But obviously, we've seen with some of their games, the scoring isn't always there. It's usually some of them are really low scoring. They usually don't get more than 2 points. Whereas Colorado, they're throwing up like 4 to 5 or 6 points on average.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something obviously Tampa's got to keep. Hopefully their defense and goalie can make sure nothing gets by them. But obviously Colorado's has dealt with good goalies before, and they've been able to score just as well. And obviously on not so great goalies like with Edmonton, pretty much decimate them.
Yeah.
So obviously Colorado's right now. If you're Colorado, you really don't change much of your game plan on what you typically do. I mean, you pretty much just outrace and outscore everybody. And obviously they can play some solid defense when you need them to.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, Colorado can just rely on their scoring to get them through.
Yeah.
I think this series is going to be similar to the Warriors-Celtics. I think it's going to be two well-coached, two well-driven teams. I think it's going to go shot for shot. I think it's going to go adjustment for adjustment, and that's where it's going to come down to big. This is where I think coaching is going to play a big part of this, and who's going to adjust more. Obviously, you guys mentioned the speed of Colorado and everything, but here's the thing. I don't think that's going to work for 7 games. It might work for game 1 where, Tampa Bay might be like, oh, man, they are quicker than we expected or whatever, and obviously they got fresh legs because they haven't played in a while. But here's the thing. That's why I'm intrigued for game 1 is sometimes you get that long layoff, that might hurt you more. I mean,
that's something that
can Tampa Bay take advantage of some Colorado rust maybe to start off? And obviously, any game you lose in this kind of series, especially game 1, is a big loss, especially when you're supposed to have the home ice. So if Tampa Bay can jump out quick in game 1, take advantage of some of that, and use that to somehow steal game 1 in Colorado, now you're looking at Tampa Bay swinging the home ice advantage down to their side. So game 1's going to be interesting on can Colorado jump out quick or can Tampa Bay jump out quick? And I'm intrigued. I think one of the biggest things down here is going to be the adjustments and who's going to have higher adjustments and the better adjustments. But I'll tell you what, Stamkos versus, you pick which Colorado player you want. But
yeah, insert any Colorado player here.
Those matchups are going to be crazy to watch there and see who comes out bigger. And, I can't remember, obviously hearing it before, but obviously Tampa Bay's been. I can't remember the last time Colorado's advanced this far.
I was -1 years old.
Was it that long?
2001.
It was like,
There's a reason tickets are $463 or $483 a person.
So
it's a big deal to them.
So that's good. Again, this is where obviously they've kind of made the playoffs in the past and haven't working their way up, but this is where can Tampa Bay's experience help them? And obviously we've seen that work in the past. But can Colorado overcome that too? So it's gonna be a very good series, and I think it's gonna be a pretty long series.
I think so too. A few other things. First of all, over/under of 6. Of course, any Colorado game, if you don't have an over/under of at least 5.5 minimum, Colorado could get 6 by themselves. That's just how they play. Some other injury news. I know there are rumors maybe Braden Point might be back. He's now a day-to-day. He's not listed as an out. And if him and Kadri can get back, or Colangelo, you can have all your centers back, and we can see these two teams who are extremely deep, have talent all over everywhere. If they're both at full strength, they'll just make this thing even better. So 2 questions for you. Over/under, yes, no. Which one are you taking, over or under? And who do you think is going to take game 1 here?
I'd probably take the over on this game, and I'm picking Colorado to take game 1. It's going to be I think Colorado will, despite their rest, I know people think, well, they have this long of rest, therefore they're going to be more rusty. I don't think that'll be much of the case. I think since Tampa hasn't really shown a lot of scoring effort, I know they can score a lot, but obviously you're playing against a solid Rangers team, but I think Colorado will outscore them.
Alrighty.
I'm going to go the other way on both, honestly. I think Tampa Bay's that pesky team. I think they're going to come out here kind of be a very physical team. They're going to go after them aggressively, physically, and I think that's going to get to Colorado a little bit here in game 1. I'm not saying Tampa Bay takes a series, but I think they kind of win a low, hard-fought battle, like a 3-1 off an empty goal.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to take the over in this one. I think that Tampa Bay is going to learn you've got to beat them with physicality. If you're going to win this series, you have to slow them down. And the easiest way to slow someone down to hockey is to hit them square in the mouth. That's the only way to do it. That's the most proven way to win a hockey game against a fast team. if they want to get into a shootout, they can. I would not recommend that personally, if I'm in that position. But I want to talk about one other fun rivalry real quick. Pat Maroon versus Corey Perry. They're not actually rivals, but Pat Maroon has won 3 straight Stanley Cups. Corey Perry has lost 2 straight Stanley Cups. Both as guys that kind of, I guess, travel around from place to place. Maroon winning 3 in a row, with 1 with the Blues, 2 with the Lightning. And Corey Perry was on the Canadiens team last year, and then the year before that he was at where was he at? Was that Vegas? I don't remember.
It had to been Vegas, right?
I think so. When Tampa Bay, when they won their first title of this.
Because Vegas was looking to go back-to-back, weren't they?
No, maybe back-to-back conference. No, Vegas played Montreal last year, that was conference final.
Mike and Perkins said 3-peat.
Yeah, Mike and Perkins did say Tampa 3-peat. Mike getting in on the action here. I'm going to say Colorado wins game 1, but I think it'll be one of those kind of OT. Tampa Bay gets beat up in the first period. They make adjustments, come back over the course of the game. I think this is going to be one of those fun, 4-3 types of games. Should be classic in game 1. I hope we have a good series. I do not want to see a sweep here.
You'll get a good series.
This
is what I'm not worried about.
Yeah, this is the one. Hockey usually you can trust a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, they played the Stars for their first one.
Okay, the Stars. There we go. I forgot the bubble Stars. I forgot they even existed.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks, COVID. That's all I can say about that. Thanks, COVID. But moving on to Super Regional time. Just what a Super Regional round we had in college baseball. Starting with, you got the number 1 team in the country getting knocked out, Notre Dame going to Knoxville, embracing the mustard getting thrown onto the field in game 1. So much chaos. Irish get an 8-6 win. A lot of unhappy Tennessee fans. Vols come back, get a 12-4 win. And Tennessee, game 3, playing clutch until the 8th inning. And you see the wheels start to fall off. And Notre Dame going to the World Series, the road to Omaha.
That's what you get, Tennessee, for throwing stuff.
This is now – Tennessee is now 0-2 when a mustard bottle appears on a field. Usually it is not a good sign for the Vols.
Notre Dame's a very good team. I really like this. This did not surprise me. This upset here.
It really didn't.
And I really think Notre Dame's capable of going to win it.
They are.
I think they were undefeated from the beginning. Coming into this bracket, they had. I know they didn't have home field, but I thought they had an advantage in that first regional. And then obviously this one was obviously a lot tougher. But no, they're able to go out there, do their business, and get the win. Obviously, they had one hiccup in game 2, but I don't think anyone would have expected Notre Dame to sweep Tennessee there. So, but no, they were able to go get their job done. And this did not surprise me.
It really didn't. It was one of those way we were seeing Notre Dame was playing, and kind of like we saw Tennessee not necessarily play lights out most of their regionals. So it was one of those where Notre Dame also was just red hot, and I think Tennessee was kind of just kind of in there, but not really on fire, and that's where Notre Dame got them.
Yep. Also makes the 3rd year in a row the 1 seed did not even get out of the Super Regional.
I love baseball.
Yeah, gotta love it. Tennessee, Arkansas, UCLA. The road to Omaha is a hard road. You cannot expect to just be given anything. Tennessee had to learn that the hard way. Just keeping it on this side of the bracket. East Carolina and Texas, withstanding weather delays, nearly whatever you want to have. Hispanic Titanic, Ivan Melendez nearly hit one over the trees out there at Greenville in game 1, but it didn't matter. Pirates got a 13-7 win. Playing some football on a baseball field, gotta love it. Jungle getting into it. There was a incident in game 2, I want to say, where the 2 Texas players run into each other and the ball hops up over them into the outfield wall, and people started throwing. Not intentionally, keep in mind, but this happens when you let drunk people into the outfield. They start throwing their beer cans everywhere, and you get beer spilled on people, and that somehow hopped over the field. And interesting time there in Greenville for sure. Texas getting a 9-8 win in game 2, coming back from a 5+ run deficit at one point, it felt like. And then game 3, a hour-long rain delay, so the game's supposed to start at 3. Ends up starting at 4, and then you get first inning in for Texas. They get up 4-0, and then another 5-hour rain delay. So you get late night baseball, and Texas just blows them out 11-1. So Texas, for the 38th time, makes the World Series. There are now more seasons with Texas going to Omaha than seasons without Texas going to Omaha.
Yeah, I thought this was similar to last year's softball incident where I don't know why this game 3 wasn't postponed. It probably should have been postponed to Monday. I mean, think about having to, if you wait an hour, right, for a rain delay, and then everybody's got the radar, so you could see that there's only a quick opening. Like especially if it's a 5-hour rain delay after that. That means it wasn't like a surprise rain incident or something. So that's where I was kind of confused about how they kind of messed that situation up. But give credit to Texas. They went out and battled. I mean, you lose game 1 and you're able to come back and bounce back, win the next 2. You win a close game in game 2, and then you just take care of business in game 3. And that's where, I mean, you mentioned how experienced they are making it to Omaha. That's where some of that kind of comes into play against a ECU team that last couple of years have been pretty good, but still kind of a new team here.
Yes.
Trying to make it.
Yeah, so East Carolina, they've been at the gate for so long nearly. Yeah. They are right there. Usually they get one win away. This felt like the year.
It did.
But Texas's pitching stepping up when it absolutely had to in a game 3. This is the one knock I have on Texas. Their pitching is shaky a lot of times, but their offense usually can cover for it. Yes. But when you get games like this, when you're able to just purely dominate a team, that's a good sign going into Omaha.
I will say this is one of those it was one of these regionals where that's not what I'm trying to say. Texas, near the end of the year, has been playing much better baseball, like with a certain other team that we'll eventually get to. Mm-hmm. But stop with your smugness.
I am smiling.
But they're playing really good right now. Overall, one of the hotter teams right now. But obviously, we'll see how how far they'll go in Omaha.
Yeah. It'll be intriguing to see that Notre Dame-Texas matchup we'll talk about here a little bit today and a little bit more when we make our predictions on Thursday. But Texas A&M, one of the few sweeps, the first team to get their ticket to Omaha, beating Louisville 5-4 late into the night for the game 1, and the Aggies getting a 4-3 win over Louisville in game 2. So Texas A&M also getting there. It felt like they were going to be the highest-ranked team for a little bit. We'll talk about UConn and their crazy journey they had out in Palo Alto and Auburn, Oregon State. But a lot of chaos. No chaos in College Station, though. Just 2 good, intense, lower-scoring baseball games. I never thought I'd see the day where 5-4 is a lower-scoring baseball game, but here we are.
Yeah, this was the most surprising regional for me, at least. It was super regional. Not the Texas A&M won, but to sweep these 2 games. Louisville is obviously a very good team, but I mean, they ended up losing 2 games, but they were 2 very good games. It wasn't like, I mean, Texas had the 11-1 games, so it wasn't like a blowout. And that's obviously, it looks a big mismatch because they went out and got the 2-game sweep there. But no, these were 2 excellent games. You couldn't have really asked for a better game there. Unfortunately for Louisville, they just came up on the wrong end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the final team on this side of the bracket is Oklahoma. Oklahoma continuing their run, making another trip to Omaha, first time in 12 years. Sooners getting that 5-4 win, game 1 over the Hokies. Oklahoma got a big lead early. Virginia Tech tried to rally. Oklahoma took another 3-runner lead. Virginia Tech really had momentum, I'd say, almost the entire second half of the game, where you just felt like, okay, any moment now they're going to get that big swing and tie this game up. But they just weren't able to get it done. Oklahoma holds on to a 5-4 win there. And then game 2, Virginia Tech responded. Their bats woke up. You got a 14-8 win. Oklahoma made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes. They had 5 errors in that game. A lot of miscues, pitching not playing well, defense not playing well. Hitting was still there, but you're not going to outscore 14 runs. That very rarely happens in baseball. Oklahoma put up a good effort, but Hokies take game 2. And then game 3, Oklahoma returns the favor with an 11-2 blowout win. It was 2-2 after the 3rd inning, and Oklahoma takes over. Tanner Treadaway had himself a day, 4 for 5, 2 solo home runs and 2 doubles.
And it's one of those. It's just one of those where OU just. Actually, I want to say before I talk about OU, it's like Virginia Tech's pitching just kind of collapsed. I think last week you mentioned, Andrew, that their pitching was kind of shaky for Virginia Tech.
No,
so
it has been.
Yeah. That was one of those where I wasn't really on, but then actually looking at these guys, I'm like, yeah, Andrew was really on the nose with their pitching.
Yeah.
So I should have probably considered that more. But obviously OU, once again, one of the other teams where they finally have hit their stride, where they're finally playing better. But obviously, we'll see how their road goes in Omaha. But their bats are going to be killer, especially if they go up against a team whose pitching isn't on top of their game right now.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting for sure. I just want to mention this because I don't know how many times we see this happen in Omaha, but OU, Texas A&M, Texas all on one side of the bracket, and Notre Dame. So you throw in everyone who doesn't like each other, and then Notre Dame's just kind of there. But, I mean, they have enough history with OU and Texas to create a little bit of animosity between the two. So a all rival side of the bracket nearly. But going to the other side, Stanford and UConn, one of the most impressive comebacks that didn't happen occurred in Game 1. UConn has a 13-6 lead going into the bottom of the ninth, and Stanford chips away and chips away and chips away, and all of a sudden it's a one-run game. It looks like Stanford might pull it off, but UConn just held on to get a 13-12 win, and then Stanford getting an 8-2 win the next day, and a 10-5 win the day after that. And that 8-2 game in Game 2, every run was scored in the first 3 innings. Nothing happened from the 4th through 9th. You got all your offense out of the way and then let it become a defensive game.
No, I mean, I was pulling for UConn. I was really hoping they would find a way to get this super regional. But, I mean, credit to Stanford for battling back. And obviously, like you mentioned, the comeback that fell short. But was Stanford the other team in that crazy Pac-12 game in their playoffs? Where it was like 21-12 in the ninth inning. It was
UCLA and Oregon State.
Oh, Oregon State, okay. I knew it was one of those top Pac-12 teams, okay. But, I mean, again, they obviously battled all year, and Stanford able to come back, get these 2 games here. And I mean, Stanford's bats are really good. They have a good, well-balanced team. And, well, we'll see how far they're able to go. I mean, it's not going to be easy for them. They're going to have to battle in that second bracket.
Obviously, kind of dealing with UConn, kind of a bit of a wake-up call for Stanford, that mainly because just – UConn, despite the fact, were they a 3rd seed or 2nd seed?
I think 3.
Yeah, they were 3 out of that College Park.
It's like you're playing against a 3 seed that probably could have made it all the way, made it to Omaha, but Stanford, lucky for them, their bats came through. Pitching obviously was iffy in Game 1 and 3, but overall, well, not as iffy in Game 3, but overall, Stanford's bats really carried them through most of this regional. So
yeah, Stanford's pitching in the Supers was not the most impressive. I think there was a stat where they threw a combined like 10 innings, their starting staff did, or something like that, getting hit on a lot. And speaking of hits, not as many as I thought there would be in Chapel Hill. Arkansas taking care of business in Game 1, 4-1 over North Carolina, and then getting a 4-3 walk-off win. And the Hogs are going back. The return of Omahogs is here.
I will say pitching overall for Arkansas was way better this time around than was in Stillwater. I don't understand when we talked about it last week. It was argument, how was the pitching that bad, which that was my opinion, or were the bats that good, which I think was probably both your guys' opinion. But obviously hitting this wasn't there the whole time for Arkansas, but their pitching really stepped up when you need it to, and obviously getting the 2-game sweep over North Carolina. I think the sentiment was from Arkansas and Oklahoma State fans before we finally had the winner of that Stillwater Regional was that whoever made it past was going to win against the one from Chapel Hill, and pretty much that's what happened.
You know, Arkansas is a very good team. They should have been a better seeded in this bracket, but they fell off a little bit at the end of the year. I think they lost 4 of the last 5 series, is where that came from, and then they dropped their first 2 in the SEC tournament. So I think that's what hurt them in position-wise, and then they got back at it. Credit to their coaching staff for rallying that team after that. Sometimes that second loss there, when you get knocked out of your conference playoffs, that wakes you up, and obviously, like you mentioned, the pitching wasn't there in the opening region, but they're a well-balanced team, and they're one of the more well-balanced teams in college baseball. I would not be surprised to see – it's going to sound funny, but, like, I would not be surprised to see an Oklahoma, Arkansas, or Notre Dame, Arkansas championship, just because at this point, those are your hottest teams, and baseball isn't always about who's the best team. It's more about who's the hottest team. And you see that in the MLB. You see that in college baseball. Who was it? Mississippi State last year. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, no one predicted them to win. They just went on and got hot and went on to win it. And that's what's crazy about this. And, again, it sounds weird to see those teams, especially because I think Notre Dame, it's their first time in there since 2002.
Yeah.
So you got some of the older team, like however you want to word it, but you guys know what I mean. And I think that's what's going to be crazy about where this all finishes.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a bit, but it's like Arkansas, I think, in my opinion, is probably my favorite on their side of the bracket.
Also, as an Arkansas fan, I mean, how would you feel knowing you were the number 1 team in the country last year, get beaten your own super, but this team of all teams makes it to Omaha? It's
It's a lot of young guys.
Just baseball things.
It's like overall, it's an overall younger group of guys for Arkansas.
Yeah.
Like they obviously last year had more veteran, and obviously, like you said, were number 1, and then didn't make it out of their regional. But this is one where it's like Arkansas was like they're just more hungry, and obviously they're just playing really good at the right time.
Yeah. And that's what it comes down to sometimes. Another team that follows this principle is Ole Miss. They go into Hattiesburg, and, you're probably going to win if you shut a team out twice. And that's exactly what Ole Miss did, getting 10-0 and 5-0 wins over Southern Miss. So the Rebels going back to Omaha. This was a year where people really didn't know how it was going to go. I know the hot seat was a bit on for Mike Bianco there at Ole Miss, where some people felt you got to make a super at least if you want to keep your job. Well, they've exceeded that, but they still will want him fired because that's just how Ole Miss is.
Yeah, but I will say, kind of looking at this game too, Southern Miss kind of looked like they got robbed of a grand slam that would have either tied the game or take the lead. I'm not sure when that happened. I know it happened in one of the games. It's been a while back.
Yeah,
but like in terms of I've slept since then. But obviously,
a lot of sports have happened.
yes,
yeah, a lot of sports.
Several things have happened.
But obviously, I don't think it would have changed the end result of obviously that controversial decision in regards to because when I watched the instant replay, I'm like, he hit a grand slam, but they ruled he didn't hit it, so. It's whatever, but I still think Ole Miss would have ended up winning those games regardless and taking the sweep. Just the way they were playing. I know I picked Southern Miss to win it because I was a bit higher on them, but Ole Miss just played much better baseball. And they're probably my second team out of their side of the bracket. But obviously I would not be surprised if they somehow managed to get all the way to the championship game.
Yeah, I mean,
with the way they've been playing.
It really would not be surprising. I do want to say we do have a viewership record tonight for the guys who stared stats. We're currently at 9 concurrent viewers, so I do want to give you and of course now it dropped to 8 the second I said so.
So I don't mention that till the end.
Yeah. I want to do it now because I do want to mention if you are enjoying the show, feel free to give us a follow here on Twitch. Subscribe to our YouTube channel being posted in the chat below. Go click that link. Tonight's episode will be on, about 30 minutes to an hour after the show ends at some point. Tell your friends, tell anybody. If you like sports, we encourage you to hang out here. We got more content, obviously, coming in the weeks to come. And I really do thank you for tuning in. But getting back to this, talking about Ole Miss, we got one more super to cover, and that is Auburn becoming the 4th SEC team to make it, 6 if you count future SEC teams, with Texas and Oklahoma, or 5, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Numbers are hard sometimes. Auburn getting a 7-5 win over Oregon State, and then Beavers respond with a 4-3 win in Game 2, and Auburn gets a 4-3 win in Game 3. So Oregon State not able to hold up. We saw them struggle a bit against New Mexico State and Vandy in their own regional, and Auburn puts them away in Corvallis.
Yeah, way Auburn was overall playing, I was like, they had the best chance of knocking out Oregon State or Vandy, whoever ended up making out of the Corvallis.
Yeah.
And obviously it ended up being Oregon State. Oregon State did put up a good fight, but they just their bats and the pitching kind of hurt them in certain moments of the game. And overall, Oregon State played well. The issue is just it didn't come through for them when they needed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all 3 of these games were good. I mean, you look at the highest deficit was 2 runs for the final score in this series. And, I mean, credit to Auburn for battling. This is, I mean, again, we mentioned the Texas A&M series was also, I mean, 2 close games, but this is exactly what I expected that series to be as well. I mean, I think they were the only 2 versus ranked matchups.
I think
Correct me
so.
if I'm wrong. But, no, they went out and battled, and this is a good mix of some scoring at times, not some scoring. And so this is a good battle and shows both teams were well-rounded and both probably deserve to go on, but obviously both can't go on. But two teams you do wish that would have been a little bit in the Final Eight. There are two of the better ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then so that creates a bracket on this side of Stanford, Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Auburn. So 3 SEC teams on one side and Stanford. They're just there. So looking at the official College World Series bracket, it all gets started Friday. Like I said, we'll get more into a deep dive in predictions and things like that on Thursday's show. But first game out of the box, Texas A&M and Oklahoma, 1 o'clock on Friday. Texas Notre Dame will be at 6 o'clock Friday night. Both those games will be on ESPN. Saturday, game 1 at 1 o'clock Central Time, Stanford and Arkansas, and then Ole Miss and Auburn at 6 o'clock in ESPN2. So I think the best question to end this on is, what do you think is going to be the best game out of the opening 4? Or if we want to pick a game per day, what's going to be the best one to watch?
I think down below, I'm going to say Stanford, Arkansas. I think that's the easy pick.
Yeah,
I think that's the easier one.
Up top's really tough, though.
Yeah.
You have a ranked Texas A&M team, number 5. You have a ranked Texas team, number 9. But then you have both of them playing two of the hottest teams in the country. Again, I think Notre Dame was severely underseeded here and should have been better.
I want to say the A&M and OU game will probably be the more to look forward to because you don't know how – my thing is, like, I'm not sure how good OU will come into that game. That's the more – I say it's more interesting one, probably not necessarily the best game, but you can get a really good game between A&M and OU, especially how they've played.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, I mean, A&M, watching them a bit, they don't have an elite pitching staff and they don't have an amazing defense. And you kind of need some of that to win in Omaha. Oklahoma has defenders that can fly all over the field when they need to. They have speed. They get a lot of stolen bases. But at the same time, you don't know how hot Oklahoma's going to be. Their bats, they can drop 10 or they can drop 2.
I think it also amounts to their pitching. Their defense is really good, especially how they played against Virginia Tech. They had made amazing plays over the weekend.
Kendall Pettis just somersault catching into the bullpen, just Kendall Pettis things.
So obviously
baseball.
So it's one of those things where it's mainly I'm more looking at OU's pitching. I think their hitting will be fine because, like you said, A&M doesn't have the best pitching staff in the world, but they can play well when you need them to. And obviously A&M has some solid bats. So. Whatever.
Yeah, T. Kennedy 6 saying go OU. I agree. I 100% agree. That's correct take.
I don't agree. That's a horrible take. That is one of the worst takes in history.
Let's go A&M and Notre Dame.
I was going to say.
Okay?
I was going to say no. Let me tell you my dream scenario. Just because I want maximum salt in Omaha, Notre Dame and Oklahoma both win. That puts Texas and Texas A&M in an immediate elimination game against each other. Force them to play each other in Omaha. Winner goes on, loser goes home. And then Notre Dame OU.
I really do want them to play each
Notre Dame OU is its own. That is a personal football vendetta for OU. We're still trying to get revenge on them for numerous losses we occurred over the 50s and 60s.
How about you actually play them?
I would love to play them more. We had a home and home in 12 and 13. It was pretty fun. I'd love to see them play more. But I agree. I think Stanford, Arkansas is the game of the bottom bracket. Personally biased, I'm going to enjoy A&M OU more. If OU wasn't there, I wouldn't. If it was a A&M Virginia Tech, I would probably enjoy that one more as well, just because you don't see top 5 that often. I do want to point out this year, with only 2 top 8 teams, this is the first time since 2014 only 2 top 8 teams have made the College World Series. Usually there are 3 or 4 that make it, but this year only 2.
Wow, that's crazy to think about. I mean,
this is truly one of the more chaotic years we've had. I mean, this happened in softball too.
You said the last 3 years the number 1 seed hasn't made it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, all those numbers are crazy.
I'd say there's a lot of parity with baseball.
Yeah.
Like you see it seems like never fails with baseball. You have it where it seems like half the top 8 or over half, actually probably 3/4 of the ranked teams don't make it. There's always someone from It's always teams that are second or third seeds out of nowhere that just take it.
Yeah.
It's really starting to be college sports in general across the board. Outside of like football is usually pretty much chalk.
Yeah.
But I mean, you look at softball. You had Texas make their run this year. I mean, no one expected that with kind of the up and down regular season they had. I mean, March Madness speaks for itself every year.
St. Peter's.
The last couple of years, women's college basketball has kind of got more spread out and more
this
balanced.
last one was a lot more.
Yeah,
parity.
I mean, you nearly had the first ever 14 seed beat a 3 seed in the women's basketball, Jackson State. I mean, that's the fun part about college sports, though. You're getting a lot more parity now in the sport. I mean, except for football. Cincinnati, though, was a welcome addition, though, to that. They kind of broke the mold.
They're usually a pretty good team.
Usually. I mean, in terms of you don't see the American usually ever get a top 5 team. UCF tried for years, and they could barely crack top 8.
Well, that's what happened.
But they did have a transitive national championship, though. They did have that. But so much fun stuff in college sports going on. I mean, we're in that kind of peak championship season, I could say, that starts in April and runs all the way to July nearly, where the playoffs are on, the heat is on for everybody, and there are only 8 left in Omaha. I do want to talk about just kind of funny Omaha nicknames, because nearly every team has them. Like, you know, Arkansas has Omahogs, Texas has Omahorns,
Those are really stupid
Ole Miss
names.
has Omaha, OU has Oklahomaha.
That is that one was really bad.
Oklahoma has been a thing for a while, but we never go, so we never get to use it. But
all those names were terrible.
yes, but I was just wondering, like, I don't know. I mean, Arkansas wins because it's
Arkansas
like the most
wins.
natural one.
Yeah, Arkansas win. Even though it's bad, it's still a better one than any of the other nicknames.
Yeah, but I mean, I just find it funny every time someone punches a ticket. If they can fit an Omaha joke in, they will do it. And every time it's usually pretty bad, but kind of like endearing, because it's like, oh, well, you don't usually make it often, so you know what? Use whatever silly nickname you want. We're proud of you. You know, that's going up on the top of the fridge right there, content, basically. But I really don't know if there will ever be a good Omaha nickname. That may never happen.
I mean, there's 300+ schools. I'm sure if one of them finally make it, we'll get one.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I say, have any of you ever been to the College World Series or
I
anything?
would like to go, but I've never had. There's just no opportunity. Plus, really expensive to go out there.
That is true. It is expensive.
Have I been yet? No. Will I be there before I die? Yes.
There you go.
That's where I'm at. I'll at least be out there before I die.
I would like to make it one. If OU and OSU ever go, we could probably. I'm just saying.
I would
a live show possibility from Omaha.
That would be great.
I'm just saying.
OSU would have to get there. Not
It's like OSU has to actually get there.
Yeah,
I'm still bitter about it. I'm not gonna lie. So. We gotta come over our choking problems.
Well,
we can we just get a solid pitching staff that can close it out.
Yeah,
because the hitting wasn't this last one. The hitting wasn't a problem. It was the pitching.
Yeah.
When Matt Campbell, even though he gave up a good amount of runs, even though when he's really the only one that really showed up, there's a problem.
Yeah, that's something that will need to be addressed, definitely, for Oklahoma State.
And as far as I know, I don't know what's going to be going on, if they're going to either move on from Walton or they're going to hopefully reevaluate that pitching staff, because something's got to happen.
Yeah. But everything's going fine on the OU side. I mean, no one expected us to be here. Not even our own fan base expected us to be here.
You never expect
you
and everyone else.
Yeah, those are the best runs. We're like, hey, we won a Big 12 title. That's pretty cool. Can't wait to go lose to Florida. Oh, we beat Florida. Oh, this is great. Oh, okay, Virginia Tech. Oh, okay, we won game 1. This is great. Let's win game 2. Oh, that happened. Okay, let's go win game 3. Oh, it's tied. Oh, we have the lead. Oh, we're still winning. Oh, we're up 9 runs. We're going to Omaha.
That hurts.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I've never seen this happen for OU. There will never be another year like this, probably in the history of Oklahoma athletics, where softball and baseball both make it. So I'm going to enjoy it as much as I can before this never happens ever again. I mean, I'm sure the same thing would happen for Oklahoma State if they get. I'm pretty sure they've had both make it at least once. When you think about the '90s, maybe, or something, but
90s, yes. Since then, no.
Yeah, I know.
Because OSU had something in the early to mid 90s, and then they kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But OSU consistently was good in the 90s. Problems they couldn't win a championship game.
Yeah. But that will do it for this evening. We thank you for tuning in, as always. If you liked what you heard this evening, feel free to give us a follow here on Twitch. Follow us on the NWTV7 Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can also subscribe to the NWTV7 YouTube channel or subscribe to the Guys Who Stared Stats YouTube channel. Once again, that link to click on the channel is in Twitch chat right now. It'll also be in the description of this video once it gets posted on YouTube. So we thank you for tuning in. For Andrew Santangelo, Connor Gray, I'm Cade Kennedy. Have a wonderful night, everybody. We'll see you back here Thursday at 5:30.